Welcome to episode 69 of the Epic Classroom Podcast. I'm Trevor Muir, and this is where we explore how to make learning meaningful, dynamic, and transformative. Epic. So students don't just get through school, they thrive because of it. All right, welcome back to the podcast. So grateful that you are choosing to listen to this today. If you're a reader as well and you like to read content like this, I've also written a whole article about it at my website at trevormuir.com, and you can just go to the blog. But then I also have a video on this content as well, which is on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook. You can find me pretty easily either on YouTube at Trevor Muir or on Instagram or Facebook, The Epic Classroom. So go check that out there. And if you are not subscribed to my email list yet, what are you doing? I create new content all the time. There's always new podcasts and videos and articles and things that I'm learning from my own experiences, but then also from incredible educators and stuff that I'm reading and researching and writing about. And I send it out every single week, Thursday morning at about 5 a.m. It goes out. So if you are not already on the subscription train, like if you're not signed up for that, please do. Obviously, it's free. And I send it out every week. And if you feel like diving into it that week, great. If not, you just skip that email and come back to it later. But just wanted to give that a little plug. I will put links for you to do that in the show notes here, as well as a project that I just created. I'm going to also put that into the show notes, and I want to tell you about that project today. But before I do that, I think we've got to acknowledge that there is a lot of bad news right now, right? If you have an internet connection, you are likely bombarded over and over and over with terrible things happening in the world at the moment. And this isn't anything new, but I just feel like it's coming at us more and more. And this doesn't mean there's necessarily more bad things happening in this moment in time, but boy, does it all seem to be directed at us. And it's just the media and social media and politicians and text messages and fill in the blank. It's just like there is just this bombardment of all these bad things happening. And there are bad things happening, right? Like I'm sure you pay attention to some of the news and you see some of the injustices that are occurring and the violence and the gaslighting and the stories that induce anxiety, right? You've probably seen what's going on in the state of Minnesota. You've seen the news stories. They get presented to you and pushed to you, and there's an algorithm that's making sure that you see every single angle of horrific things that are happening and that you don't forget it, because it's just constantly beeping on your phone. It's constantly showing up. I was at my son's basketball game on Saturday morning, and I'm watching him play basketball, and it's really fun and exciting. He's in 6th grade, and he's having this really fun game. It's his first one of the season, and we're sitting there, and somebody I know was sitting next to me wearing an Apple Watch, and it just kept dinging the whole time with headlines. Like another protester shot. Oh, this is happening. This is what the White House has to say about it. Oh, this is the retaliation. Oh, this is the rioting that's happening. I'm literally the whole time, it's just ding, 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 ding. And her watch just kept blowing up about all of the bad news happening in that moment, right? Like there are bad things happening, and we know all about it. And I've just been thinking lately, and don't worry, we're going to be pushing this towards conversations about education, but then also stuff we can actually do with students that's really positive. So we're going to get there. This isn't just a commentary on the times, but I do want to point out that I'm not so sure that it's such a good thing for us to consume this much negativity all the time, right? I don't think we are made to handle this much bad news all at once, all the time. I don't think it's necessarily good for us. I certainly don't think it's it's good for students to consume this type of negativity all the time either, right? There's tons of research that shows that repeated exposure to distressing news can increase stress and anxiety and even depressive symptoms, right? Like it can set us into the state. People who regularly consume negative news over and over are more likely to feel overwhelmed and emotionally strained, right? I read that news that focuses on crisis or danger, it can actually trigger our brain's threat response, like that fight or flight thing that we naturally do, which keeps our bodies in a heightened state of vigilance. And it can just make us constantly feel worried and hopeless, right? Like if you went and looked at an early human, it would probably be a good thing to be in that hyper-vigilant state because you might be getting stalked by a tiger or a lion or something. And it's really good to be stressed and to be aware of that because something terrible can happen. And yet we might be in the safety of our own homes, just doing whatever we're doing, surrounded by comfort and the people we love. And yet we are in that same exact state. Our brains are in that heightened threat response state, even if we're not directly threatened in that moment, purely because of the negativity that we are consuming, right? Like, I got to be honest with you, this weekend, this news in Minnesota made me on edge all weekend long. For good reason, right? Right? Like, just horrible things happened. And like that, it's like, it's terrible. And you see it, right? Like in this day and age, you see video of this type of violence and the horrible response to it and all of that that's happened. You see something like that and it put me on edge. And I got to be honest, it's not necessarily a bad thing to feel this edge in response to the horrible things happening, right? It activates us. It moves us, right? I'm not saying, oh, we shouldn't expose ourselves to any of the negativity in the world, that we just need to bury our heads in the sand and just ignore all of it, right? Like, no, that's not the response, because the truth is it does activate us. It pushes us into action. It makes you do something about it. It makes you empathize and feel for others. It makes you pray for them. It makes you donate. It makes you write to senators and congressmen. It moves you. And so it's like, no, don't ignore the terrible things happening in the world. But I got to tell you, when I was just consuming hours and hours of this bad news this weekend, it did not put me in the best place. And this affected how I showed up as a parent this weekend. It made me a little bit more distracted. It affected my attitude, right? It affects my creativity. When I'm sitting down and trying to create and make new things, it makes me distracted in that area. It distracts me when I shouldn't be distracted, right? Like, it's like being at a kid's basketball game and you're there to try to absorb joy and share joy, and all you can think about is the negativity, right? And so it does this thing to you, and I think there has to be some regulation there. Here's the other thing about only consuming bad news, because, by the way, isn't that kind of what the algorithm points you towards the most, is negativity? It's the bad news. It's not showing the good stuff, all that's happening in the world. It's just showing you bad, bad, bad. And that's what we consume. And that's what heightens our cortisol levels. And that's what puts us in that fight or flight mentality and affects our distraction and our ability to feel joy, right? Like, it also makes you feel hopeless. Like, what's the point of feeling hopeful about the future when it's just going to be more of this? When it's just going to be more injustice, when it's just going to be more sadness, it's just going to be more heartbreak. And so why activate, right? Like, why push and strive for a better world, a better community, a better circumstance for myself if I'm just surrounded and inundated by pointlessness, by this hopelessness, right? If I'm just feeling hopeless about all this, how am I going to feel hopeful about anything else? And I think, and this is just a hot take maybe, but I think we're kind of seeing that in our society right now, this pervasive hopelessness of people feeling like, what's the point? And so therefore I might as well just stay mad, or I might as well just stay angry, or I might as well just pick a side. I might as well just join the divisiveness. I might as well just give up on contributing something good, because what's the point? But here's the thing. If we pay attention, we're going to see that there's still plenty of good news happening as well, right? Like, if you are paying attention, you'll notice that there is good news happening right alongside the bad news, right? This is a practice that I have to work on myself, and I think all of us need to, right? It's a practice of trying to notice the good that's also happening right now, to let that fuel our hopefulness, right? It's not about toxic positivity and, burying your head in the sand and pretending everything's okay, saying like, oh, you know what? Everything's good. I'm happy, right? Like my neighborhood's peaceful, right? Like I haven't had any run-ins with law enforcement, or I haven't had to, I'm fed. Things might be more expensive, but I can still eat. It's like, well, no, that's not necessarily true for everybody. No, that's not true for everybody. And so this isn't about saying, oh, I'm just going to slap a silver lining in it all and, put on a nice smile and go about my day. It's like, no, it's not that, right? That's not even helpful. That's actually can even be damaging. Instead, it's consciously making an effort to spot the goodness that is present around us, to give us hope, to realize, oh, there's still lots of beauty and grace and things to be hopeful about in the world, right? Like that's something we have to practice. And I think we can do it alongside of being present and aware of what's going on in the world. But then I also think it's just so vital that we find positivity, that we don't let the darkness win, right? And I think this is something we have to teach students as well, is how to be hopeful. And I think this starts with modeling hopefulness, showing students like, hey, there are good things going on and I want to talk about them myself. I want to share good news with you. I want to share positive things that I'm seeing happening. I want to share things that I'm excited about, right? So I think it starts with us as adults modeling it. But to model it, we have to do it ourselves. We've got to create space for it. I brought it up, I think I brought it up in last week's episode. I've got this device called a brick where I can just turn off all of the distracting apps on my phone just by simply touching it with my phone. So I touch my phone to the brick. It's a little plastic thing that sits on my counter, and it shuts off all of these apps. And that's what I had to do after I sat for several hours and was just feeling so hopeless on Saturday. I was like, all right, time to take a break from all that. And so I touched my phone to it, and I did not untouch it for 48 hours. I went 2 days of just complete disconnect from the world because I needed it, right? Like there's just nothing I can do right now. And so I just need to take a step away from the negativity that's going on in the news, which seemingly is always going on and presented to me by the news. And I just need to be present. And so like that's an effort I had to make. That's a discipline. And I tell you what, like that made me feel more hopeful. That made me spot some of the good stuff going on in my own family and in my own life and my own career, so that I had some health to be able to replug back in, right? Like, so I had some recharge time. And so maybe that's something you need to practice, but then share that practice with students, whether you are a teacher or an administrator. Share that with others about this discipline you are working on developing to spot good news in your life. When I ask educators, when I go around, one of the questions I've been asking a lot the last 2 years, especially as I'm working on a book called The Portrait of a Graduate, is I ask, what is the portrait of a graduate? Right? Like I ask this to teachers all the time. What do you think the ideal graduate, somebody who finishes high school or college, whatever, when they finish here, what do we want them to be like? What competencies, what skills, characteristics, traits do you wish everybody had by the end of their education experience? And I'm telling you, almost 100% of the time, at least one person shares out with the rest of the group that they want an ideal graduate who is hopeful and positive, right? Like every single time, that is one of the descriptors of the ideal graduate, is somebody who is hopeful. Right, who's positive, that's visionary, that can see a bright path forward, or at least a bright endpoint, and then wants to put in the hard work of discovering the path to get there, right? Like it's something that we've all identified that we want in our students, and so we have to figure out, how do we help them develop that? How do we help them get that trait and embed it in them so that when they go through life, they can do it themselves? Hopefulness is a practice. I've said this about all other skills and competencies related to the portrait of a graduate, and it's true for hopefulness. It's like a muscle. The more you work this muscle out, the stronger it will become. And the less you work it out, the more it'll atrophy, the more useless it is to you. And so we've got to teach them this. That starts with modeling. It also might start with, I think I did a whole podcast on this before. It might have been a while ago, but a practice like good things. Just every day in school, without fail, dedicating 3 minutes to the start of class to just call out the good things going on in their lives, right? Like, all right, you have 3 seconds. I'm going to go around. You have 3 seconds to share something good going on. And then you just go around and do it. I won my soccer game, right? Like, or I got an A on my math test, or it's my mom's birthday. Kids love to tell you when it's their mom's birthday, right? Like, just go around and share good things. It doesn't have to relate to the lesson that day. If there's shortened schedules because of an assembly or testing, doesn't matter. We still start every day with this ritual of calling out good things going on in the world. This is a practice. You know, I live in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and it's been very cold and very gloomy lately. My kids have had a lot of snow days, and we've just been kind of stuck inside, and I've been going on hikes, but it's like, it's like below zero outside, and you got to bundle up, and it's just a tough time of year to feel super cheerful. And one of my practices is to just take time by myself to reflect on the good things that are surrounding me, my kids, my beautiful wife, the thing that I get to do for work, getting to connect with educators and students, with the little joys, my puppy, right? Like, I have to do that. I have to remind myself how good life can be. And that just has an effect on the way that I carry myself and my posture towards the world. And I think we can do that intentionally with students, is just starting out learning experiences by calling out the good things going on in life. So maybe do that. There's another thing that I want to tell you about, and I have been working on it since this weekend. I was like, man, I've got an idea, because I think there is so much bad news going on that we need to do intentional work to point out the good news happening in our schools and communities as well. And so I designed something, and it's done now. So you can actually access it for free in the show notes, or you can go to my website. I'll tell you more about where to find it in a minute. But I'm calling it the Good News Project. I've been designing a project or a learning unit that you can do with your students that's about identifying and reporting on and celebrating good news that's happening in your school or community. It's called the Good News Project, and I actually wrote the whole thing up with all of the steps and lesson ideas and even a rubric so that you can use it in your class. Like I said, it's totally free. I really just want everyone to find more ways to help develop some hopefulness in our students. I think we need it. And this project is a great unit to also practice writing and communication and collaboration and these skills that we would be developing anyway, but now it's framed by this meaningful project. So I just want to real briefly walk you through what this actually looks like in a classroom. And you can decide if you feel like this would be right for your students, or if you know somebody who it would work for, or if you just want to take it. I just have it in a Google Doc, so you're going to be able to just go and get a copy of it. So you'll just click make a copy, and it's all yours. And you can completely renovate it to make it work with your content, your area, your students, whatever it is. I've got it designed as a 2-week collaborative project, with writing really being at the heart of it and the standards. But I think you could find some really cool creative ways to tie in your content as well. But here's the basic idea of it. The Good News Project starts with students learning how to notice. Right? We train them to look for good news the same way that journalists look for breaking news. And so we have them ask questions like, wait, who is helping someone in our school? Or what problem is being solved right now in our school, in our community, in our neighborhood? It's got to be local. So like, where's something good going on? What's getting better? What effort is paying off that nobody's really talking about? Right? The bad news is obvious. One of the ways that I suggest in the project to launch it to students is to have them, or maybe just pull up on a screen in front of them all, CNN or Fox News or Twitter or whatever, and just have them notice how much bad news is right front and center. Right? As I was designing this project, I was like, I better go and make sure that this is actually true. I went to those big sites and I looked for good news, and I could not find very much. You have to scroll way down to find out, like, oh yeah, this animal is just taken off the extinction list. Or like, oh, there's like a really fun like chili festival happening by Lake Michigan this weekend. It's like, yeah, there's some good news, but it is buried by the bad news, because the bad news gets the clicks. The bad news gets you to stay there long enough to see the advertisements. The bad news gets that brain cooking up that cortisol and gets you really in the depths of it so that you want to keep reading more and more and more of it. Listen, that's what it is. And so maybe start the project by showing that to students. Hey, look at all of the bad news. But then say, yeah, this bad news is loud and obvious, but the good news isn't. It's quieter. It's often happening in the background. And we need to do something about that because there's good things happening at our school. And maybe come up with some examples of it, or just put them into groups and say, all right, I want you to start discovery. I want you to spend the rest of this class period trying to find some good news happening in our school. It might take conversation with each other, maybe split them into groups and let them go out and discover it. Maybe suggest, like, maybe it's a lunch worker who notices kids are seeming lonely. Maybe you need to go and do a profile on this kind person, right? Or maybe there's a crossing guard who hasn't missed a day of school this year. Maybe your bus driver did something really kind and you want to go highlight it. Maybe there's a club or a team that grew after almost disappearing last year. Maybe there's a student who's known for getting other kids off the buddy bench at recess and you want to highlight them. Maybe there's an art show or a concert or a performance that brought people together and you want to shine a light on that, right? So give your students some suggestions, but then let them discover and explore and ask questions. And then once your students identify a piece of good news, the next step is reporting. They don't just write about it from a distance, they talk to people. Have them interview a classmate, a teacher, a custodian, a coach, a community member, right? Teach them how to interview. I've got some resources how to do that in the lesson plan, but teach them how to conduct a strong interview, and then have them go and ask questions and listen and gather quotes. And as they collect these little pieces of evidence of good news, make sure they're doing it accurately so that they go and can compile it and then let other people see that there's good stuff going on, right? Like students start seeing that the people that they pass every day are doing good things and it's their job to point it out, right? Like it's about noticing the positivity, but then after that, students create something to share their story. And this is where choice really matters. You can give them some options how to do this, but that would be one of the requirements is you don't just learn the good news story, you have to share it with others. And so maybe some groups create posters, maybe they make a short video, maybe some group makes a newsletter style article that they send to the school to send out, maybe they create a photo story, the format, whatever they pick, as long as it fits the criteria. And I've got some suggested criteria in there for them to follow. Whatever the format is, that matters less than the purpose, right? Whatever they create has to include visuals and writing and real evidence. It has to be clear enough that somebody outside of your classroom can understand it. And then comes the part that makes this project a little different, because then students have to choose an actual audience for their work. Not a hypothetical audience, but a real one. The whole point is that we are sharing good news, right? So they have their groups decide who they want to reach and where that audience actually exists. Maybe it's other students in the hallway. And so they're creating a big bulletin board on the side of the hallway to share good news. Maybe it's sending out to families through the newsletter. Maybe it's teachers through announcements. Maybe it's in the local community. What if you went to the local library and said, my students are creating, maybe your students do this. They call the library, which you can help facilitate. And they said, hey, we just created this exhibit on this good thing that's happening. Can we display it? I bet you the library would say yes, right? And so they have to they have to find an actual audience for their work. They create a plan, they get permission if they need to, and then they actually share their work out. You're right. This isn't about going viral. It's about being intentional. It's about realizing that how you communicate matters and where you communicate matters, and that you can spread good news to others. That is a vital skill that you get to be a part of. So that's the main idea of it. And then at the end, you'd have them reflect on it. What was it like to find goodness? How does this contrast to the news that most people have? How could you do this more in your everyday life? Is this something that you could continue on? So that's it. I've got it kind of laid out. I also created a whole rubric for you to be able to assess their writing and assess their final products. But it's an idea, and you obviously don't have to do it. But man, wouldn't it be kind of cool if your students did do it? What if they were spending quality time for a couple weeks or even just a week looking and noticing and writing about and talking about and creating around good news happening in school, right? Like things that are actually good, because we're getting inundated by the bad stuff. And I just want to keep driving this point in, because there's nothing worse than somebody who just wants to whistle past the graveyard, just to ignore the tough stuff going on. It's like, no, it's not about ignoring it. Instead, it's actually about activating ourselves. It's about being impassioned by the negative stuff going on, so we do something about it. But we're only going to do something about it if we believe that there's hope, right? If we believe that there's a path forward, if the society can do things better, if we can treat people better, if the world can get better, if animals can be treated better, if our environment, if our way of living and being in the world can be better than it is right now, we have to believe that that's possible in order to do something about it. And so, yeah, let's not disconnect from the world. Let's stay active. But also, let's not let us forget that there is lots of good stuff going on around us. There's plenty of beauty going around, but we have to take the time to notice it. And what if we use school as a way of also teaching students how to take that time as well? And what if we taught them how to ask interview questions and read and write and do some school stuff in the process? So if you want that project, you can go get it on my website at trevormuir.com/good news. I'll put it in the show notes so you can get it there as well. Also, you can go to epicpbl.com, where I've got some other great projects and resources that are all free. And actually, not all free. I have a course that you can buy that just took so much time to make. But so that one you can pay for. But if you want to learn about how do you design projects like this, how do you lead them really well, that's where you can go do that. But I also have a lot of free resources that are yours for the taking, because I think school is an amazing place to help students develop skills and competencies and knowledge that they can use to make the world better. And so you can go get that at my site at trevormuir.com/resources or epicpbl.com, which will take you to specific resources around PBL. But this one, I think you're going to love it. If you do use this, I would love to hear how it goes. I really would. So feel free to shoot me an email at trevor@trevormuir.com and tell me about this project. Tell me how it goes. I'd love to celebrate that with you. So thank you, friends. Thanks for listening. Hey, I am aware that a lot of us are feeling down right now, right? Like, life's hard. Weather's hard. Bad news is hard. And so I'm glad we get to journey together. And I wish you well in your good work with students or educators or whatever it is you do. Thanks for doing it so well. And thanks for tuning in to episode 69 of the Epic Classroom Podcast. My name's Trevor Muir. I will talk to you next time.